Hello, students. Welcome to the tea processing class. I am teacher Huang Hui. In this lesson, I will guide you through the traditional scenting technology of jasmine tea. By the end of this course, you should be able to understand the traditional scenting process of jasmine tea, master the key operational points of each step, and independently carry out the traditional scenting of jasmine tea. Chinese scented tea has a long history, dating back to the late Song or early Yuan dynasties. Scented tea, also known as fragrant tea, kiln huacha, or scented tea, is a type of reprocessed tea made by scenting tea base with fragrant flowers. It combines the pure taste of tea with the rich aroma of flowers, creating a unique and harmonious blend. Jasmine tea is highly popular among consumers and accounts for about 90% of China's total scented tea production. Today, we will explore the traditional scenting technology of jasmine tea. The traditional scenting process of jasmine tea is relatively complex and includes steps such as tea dew treatment, flower treatment, mixing tea with flowers, static scenting, cooling scented tea, repiling for continued scenting, sifting out the scented flowers, and refiring and drying. This entire process constitutes one scenting cycle. The number of scenting cycles varies for different grades of jasmine tea. Generally, high-grade jasmine tea undergoes 4 to 7 scenting cycles, medium-grade tea undergoes 2 to 3 cycles, and low-grade tea undergoes 1 cycle. Alternatively, half of the low-grade tea may be scented with fresh flowers, while the other half is pressed with jasmine flower, residue from previous scenting cycles, after which they are blended together. Tea dao treatment. During the scenting process, the absorption of fragrance by the tea base is a physical absorption process. When the moisture content of the tea base is high, its ability to absorb fragrance decreases. When the moisture content reaches 18% to 20%, its absorption capacity becomes 0. Therefore, in traditional jasmine tea scenting, it is essential to reduce the moisture content of the tea base as much as possible to maintain its absorption capacity. This requires proper treatment of the tea base. Tea base treatment primarily involves refiring and drying the tea base, followed by spreading and cooling to control the moisture content and temperature of the tea base before scenting. During refiring, the inlet air temperature of the drying machine is typically 120 to 130 degrees Celsius, with a leaf thickness of 2 centimeters. The process takes about 10 minutes to meet the moisture requirements without affecting the quality of the tea base. After refiring, the moisture content of the tea base should be controlled between 3.5% and 5.0%. High-grade tea base, which undergoes more scenting cycles, requires a lower moisture content of 3.5% to 4.0%. Medium-grade tea base, with fewer scenting cycles, can have a moisture content of 4.0% to 4.5%. Low-grade tea base, which undergoes only 1 scenting cycles, should have a moisture content of 4.5% to 5.0%. Since the temperature of the tea base after refiring can reach 80 to 90 degrees Celsius, it must be spread and cooled. Once the temperature of the tea base drops to 1 to 3 degrees Celsius above room temperature and stabilizes, it is ready for scenting. It is important to note that the refiring temperature and the degree of cooling directly impact the quality of finished tea. If the refiring temperature is too high, it may produce a strong roasted or even burnt flavor. If the roasted aroma of the tea base is too strong, it may be difficult for the floral aroma to mask it during scenting, thereby affecting the quality of the finished product. Flower treatment. The flowers used for scenting jasmine tea are primarily jasmine flowers, with a small amount of white orchid flowers added as an aroma base to enhance the fragrance concentration of jasmine tea. Flower treatment includes spreading flowers, piling flowers, and sifting flowers. The purpose of this entire process is to promote the uniform and timely blooming of jasmine flowers, protect the quality of the flowers, and remove unopened buds and impurities. Spreading flowers. During transportation, the respiration of flowers causes their temperature to rise, resulting in a green, unpleasant odor. Therefore, after the flowers arrive at the factory, they should be promptly spread in a clean, cool, and well-ventilated area. The spreading thickness is generally 5 to 8 centimeters. Piling flowers. Spreading and piling flowers are repeated processes, typically carried out 3 to 5 times until most of the flowers have bloomed. The purpose of piling flowers is to use the heat generated by flower respiration to raise the pile temperature, enhancing the activity of enzymes within the flowers and promoting their transition. to physiological maturity. For uniform blooming, when the flower temperature drops to -3 degrees Celsius above room temperature, the flowers are gathered into a pile. The pile height is 40 to 60 centimeters, and the temperature is generally controlled between 38 and 42 degrees Celsius. The first piling primarily aims to promote early blooming, so the temperature can be slightly higher, typically 42 to 45 degrees Celsius. Afterward, the flowers are spread to dissipate heat. When the flower temperature drops to near room temperature, they are piled again. When the temperature gradually rises to 38 to 42 degrees Celsius, the flowers are spread once more to dissipate heat. Sifting flowers. The purpose of sifting flowers is to grade and remove impurities from flowers of uneven sizes and blooming stages. A large flat screen machine with sieve mesh diameters of 12, 10, 8, and 6 millimeters is often used to separate clean flowers, unopened buds, and detached calyxes and pedicels. The clean flowers are graded into sizes 1 to 3, referred to as large, medium, and small flowers. When the blooming rate of clean flowers reaches about 90%, they are ready for scenting. It is important to note that before mixing tea with flowers, the clean flowers should be thinly spread once more to ensure their temperature is not higher than that of the tea base before they are gathered for scenting. White orchid as aroma base. Adding a certain amount of white orchid flowers before or during the mixing of jasmine flowers for scenting is called aroma base scenting. This enhances the fragrance concentration of jasmine tea and improves its aroma profile. There are several methods for aroma-based scenting, and here we will introduce two main ones. One method involves scenting the tea base with a small amount of white orchid flowers before jasmine scenting, allowing the tea base to absorb the white orchid aroma as a base. The other method involves adding a small amount of white orchid flowers along with jasmine flowers during the scenting process, allowing the tea base to absorb both jasmine and white orchid aroma simultaneously. The amount of white orchid flowers used for aroma-based scenting should be appropriate. If too much is used, the finished tea may reveal a white orchid aroma, making the jasmine fragrance less pure. If too little is used, it will not enhance the fragrance concentration of the finished jasmine tea, failing to achieve the purpose of aroma-based scenting. Mixing tea with flowers. Mixing the tea base to be scented with the processed clean jasmine flowers according to the specified flower ratio, and then piling them into a scenting pile that meets technical requirements, or placing them in scenting boxes for static placement, is called mixing tea with flowers. Currently, jasmine tea scenting mainly uses pile scenting, while box scenting is used for smaller quantities. In pile scenting, after mixing tea with flowers, a small portion of the tea douhu to be scented is spread on a clean surface as a base layer. Then, layers of tea and flowers are alternately stacked to form a rectangular or circular pile, known as a scenting pile. Static scenting in such a pile is called pile scenting. In box scenting, after mixing tea with flowers, the mixture is placed in scenting boxes for static scenting. The height should be 20 to 25 centimeters, generally not exceeding 30 centimeters. Static scenting. Static scenting refers to the process of allowing the mixed tea and flowers to rest, during which the tea base absorbed the volatile aromatic compounds released by the jasmine flowers. Aeration and heat dissipation. Aeration and heat dissipation involves, during the scenting process, when the temperature of the scenting pile reaches a set level, breaking open the pile to ventilate and dissipate heat, thereby lowering the pile temperature, generally 4 to 5 hours after mixing tea with flowers and static scenting. The pile temperature will rise to 45 to 48 degrees Celsius, and the flowers will begin to wilt. At this point, cooling scented tea is required. Repiling for continued scenting. Repiling for continued scenting refers to gathering the pile again and continue static scenting after the pile temperature has dropped to a set level during cooling. When the pile temperature drops to 1 to 3 degrees Celsius above room temperature, the pile is gathered again. The height of the repiled scenting pile is generally about 5 centimeters higher than the initial scenting pile. When repiling, the temperature of the tea base should not be too low or too high, not above 38 degrees Celsius. Otherwise, the aroma of the scented tea may become weak and lacking in concentration, or turbid, with poor freshness. Sifting out the scented flowers. Sifting out the scented flowers refers to the process of separating the tea base from the flower residue. When the scenting has reached the appropriate degree, this step must be carried out promptly and quickly. Refiring and drying. The wet base after sifting out the flowers must be promptly baked and dried. The temperature of the drying machine is generally controlled between 110 and 120 degrees Celsius. During the scenting process, while absorbing aromatic compounds, the tea base also absorbs a large amount of moisture from the flowers, increasing its moisture content from 4% to 5% to 12% to 18%. Timely refiring and drying are necessary to prepare for the next scenting cycle or final scenting transition to the next scenting cycle. For multi-cycle scented teas, after completing one scenting cycle, the aforementioned process is repeated multiple times. The transition between scenting cycles is referred to as transition to next scenting cycle. Pressing the scenting mixture. Pressing the scenting mixture involves using flower residue from final scenting or high cycle scenting mixed with low-grade tea base for scenting to remove the coarse and stale odor of low-grade tea. The method involves mixing the tea base and flower residue in a ratio of 1 to 0.6 to 0.7, piling it to a height of 50 to 60 centimeters, and allowing it to rest for 4.5 to 5.0 hours for scenting. Final scenting. The purpose of final scenting is to use a small amount of high-quality jasmine flowers for one final scenting at the last stage of scented tea production to enhance the surface aroma of jasmine tea and improve its freshness. Tea mixing and packing. After final scenting, the product completes the scented tea production process and meets the quality requirements for scented tea. It should then be promptly mixed and packed. In this lesson, we have learned about the traditional scenting technology of jasmine tea. The process is quite intricate, with higher-grade scented teas requiring more scenting cycles. Similarly, in our studies, to achieve good results, we must put in effort and work hard. Everyone should proficiently master the content of this lesson after class, especially the key operational points of each process, which must be firmly remembered. That concludes all the content for this lesson. See you in the next class.